Ole Miss. Obviously, with what's going on with Ole Miss, with the Lane Kiffin situation, that's something that a lot of people are not going to stop talking about probably forever because they're still in the SEC together with Lane Kiffin at LSU and now what Pete Golding's doing at Ole Miss. But here's my question. Is Ole Miss better without Lane Kiffin? And let me try to explain here, but I think there might be a solid argument that Lane Kiffin actually put Ole Miss in a worse position than what Pete Golden is now. Obviously, Pete Golden have won 2 college football playoff games. How many has Lane Kiffin won? 0. Lane Kiffin, here's a stat I saw on social media today, or before we started today. Lane Kiffin without Pete Golding is 23-13. He was 5-5 in 2020. He was 10-3 in 2021, 8-5 in 2022. Adds Pete Golding to the mix in 2023, 11-2. 2024, 10-3. This year, 11-1. So that means he was 23-13 without, 32-6 with. You want to even go into the recruiting aspects of it? 4- and 5-star recruits. Lane Kiffin only had 27 4- and 5-star recruits without Pete Golding. With Pete Golding, 56. Is Pete Golding the guy? Is he the actual dude that is going to turn this team around and make Ole Miss the blue blood, make Ole Miss the SEC favorite moving forward the next couple of years? Because right now there's only one team left in the college football playoffs from the SEC, and it's not Alabama, it's not Georgia, it's Ole Miss.
I think he is. I absolutely think he's that guy. What we've seen from him the last few, games, post-game pressers or whatever, I love it. I am a huge fan. Admittedly, did not know a whole lot about Pete Golding before this whole debacle. Like, I'm going to be just completely candid with you, but he seems to be killing it. And this upcoming game is going to be a big tell, with what next season could look like if a bunch of, assistants end up going over to LSU early, right? Like, that is a very real conversation. And what Pete Golding can look like. Obviously, he won't have his assistants for next season already, which is like he's kind of in like a worst possible spot right now. And the fact that he is succeeding as much as he is crazy. But no, just the way that he's approached everything, coaching the team, transfer portal, recruiting, all of that. Like, he seems like the guy out at Ole Miss, and that's really exciting. I love his energy. He's got good vibes. And Lane Kiffin, he almost feels kind of like the opposite of Lane Kiffin, if that makes sense. I don't know if you would agree with that, but very much like for the team as opposed to what Lane Kiffin might be.
Yeah, I think it's solid. And he's not slowing down in the portal either. He's picked up a couple good pieces himself. You talk about Indiana doing double duty in the college football playoffs. Ole Miss is doing the same thing as well. And it's all defensive side. Picking up Jake Crawford from Auburn, the cornerback, might be the best corner, at least maybe one or the second best corner in the portal. Sharif Denson from Florida, picking up Keaton Thomas, the linebacker from Baylor. Justin Maldonado, the edge rusher from Nevada. He's picking up some key defensive pieces to say, hey, look, let's run it back. And he's putting up some cryptic tweets, putting up some Trinidad Chambliss stuff, putting up the Chambliss flag, if you will, for
there's just no way media. He doesn't come back.
If he has to. Talks about a waiver. There's talk about maybe him coming back. I mean, look, if Chambliss comes back, they reload this defense, they get a couple more weapons, players leaving the draft, Ole Miss is right back in the same spot they were right now.
Chambliss is incredible.
He's incredible.
Now, the question is, if he comes back, does he go to LSU with Lane Kiffin, or
that's a very good question. And I've seen both sides of this. I've seen some fans pop up saying, well, Lane left Trinidad. Why would he want to follow him?
Right. Or was there a conversation, obviously they're waiting on the waiver, but no, it's a very interesting question. I would almost argue that the amount of trust that even just this last game that Pete Golding put into Trinidad Chambliss, against Georgia, and allowing him to like just kind of be himself, I would say is almost enough to keep him there. We talked about it on Monday last week, I believe it was. I think the days are kind of blurring together right now, but the heat check from Trinidad, I believe that was an RPO, and you don't like that doesn't just happen, right? There has to be called, or there has to be an understanding on some level. I feel like if this run goes on any further, if they go into the national championship game, there's a very real chance that Trinidad says, all right, if I can come back, I'm going to stay at Ole Miss. And if he does that, like, yeah, look out. You talk about blue bloods and what Ole Miss could be. They could absolutely be on a generational beginning to a run here.
He spent years at Ferris State, even when he was injured, even when he was considered the backup, and then went to Ole Miss. And then he was considered the backup. And when they talked about at the beginning of one of the college football playoff games, they had a feature on Chambliss, one of the many features they had on him. And they were talking about like his process going to Ole Miss. And he's like, I wasn't sure how they were going to use me. If I was just going to be a running quarterback, a backup, the passer, true number one, wasn't sure, but I was ready to just commit to the team. And then obviously the Austin Simmons injury happens. Austin Simmons hits the portal for the record too for Ole Miss. And then Chambliss takes over. And everybody on the coaching staff talking about how Chambliss turns out to be not only their new quarterback, their new starting quarterback, but the most likable player on the roster, a leader right away. He's like, when you have that, all those tangibles together, a player that everybody loves, a player that's the leader, and you're the quarterback, you become like this priceless type of player on the roster. I think no matter what, if Trinidad Chambliss can get a waiver and return in 2026, Ole Miss is going to do everything in their power to make sure he never leaves, never even considers hitting the transfer portal. Now, here's something to keep in consideration, though, because I think this is actually something that could actually happen. The transfer portal closes on January 16th. He still might be waiting for a waiver. Don't be surprised if he enters his name in the transfer portal just to keep his process open. There's only one transfer portal window. Just because if he enters the portal doesn't mean he's leaving, but I think it just is a safe window for him because he can only do it once.
Yeah, don't panic type of situation there. It's valid. That's actually a super valid take. And with the national championship game potentially being after the portal closes, I mean, first off, what are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, who saw that and said, yeah, that makes sense? The kids on the national championship teams, are they even college players? They won't transfer, right? Because they're not college players at that point. I don't know. That whole thing is just dumb to me. But yeah, you bring up a really good point. There is a very solid chance that he ends up entering his name into the portal. Just don't panic. Don't panic. But yeah, as far as the next few years, even without Trinidad, because even at most they could only have 1 year. What do you make of the Pete Golding, kind of run he could go on here?
Look, I'm not going to lie to you. When they decided to just like quickly hire Pete Golding instead of doing a coaching search, I was shocked. I thought like, hey, look, I think Ole Miss was packing it in initially. That was my initial thoughts.
Yeah.
The more I see this now, the more I see behind the scenes from recruiting, I was completely wrong on this. I think he's the perfect hire. He might be one of the best hires out of all the coaching searches, and he was already there. The relationships he's built, we're already seeing that relationships that he has. He's bringing in some key portal pieces. Those key portal pieces are coming from other teams inside the SEC as well. We speak about Jake Crawford from Auburn, Sharif Denson from Florida, just name a few. And then the relationship he obviously has with his quarterback and maybe the coaching staffs that he's going to have to put together afterwards can decide his future. Who knows? But I truly think that Ole Miss is better off right now without Lane Kiffin. There's no drama. The contract obviously is a lot better. And it feels a lot more about football than it feels about everything else like it did with Lane Kiffin.
That's the biggest thing. That was my main takeaway too. I didn't want to say it without saying it, but boy, does it feel like it's the vibes are different around the building. I don't know. Maybe I haven't seen any Pete Golding at hot yoga photos, and that's what's skewing my mind here, but it just feels like it's about football and about the team. And that to me is a great place to start your program.